feel so stupid to hold a camera, to be honest with you. Just feel dumb as fuck.
I just want to say that be careful as consumers what you consume on the internet, because every time there's a new camera that comes out, I don't care if it's Canon, if it's Sony, if it's Fuji, Panasonic, everybody always says it's their favorite camera, and they give you a whole video on why it's their favorite camera, right? And then how every other manufacturer needs to catch up. And then you see a new camera coming out, and all of a sudden that's their favorite camera, and all the other manufacturers need to catch up. I love electronic gear, I love cameras, I love everything in that regard. There was a time where I wanted it, maybe just because I could afford it, just because it was new, just because, why not, right? And then there becomes a time where you'll realize that you need it because it's simply a tool, like a hammer or a screwdriver or a power screwdriver or power drill, whatever the case is, and it becomes a tool to where you look at it as it makes your job easier. So if you're a creator, it makes it easier for you to create. If you are just a whatever type of worker, it just makes it easier to do your job, right? So that's how you should look at your purchase. So yes, I do have a G7X Mark II. Yes, I do have a 6600, EOS R, A7R4, and whatever else is going on. But I have my personal reasons of why it makes it easier to do specific tasks that I do on a regular. Don't get things just because it's new. Unless you can simply afford it and buy gear, go ahead. By all means, if I could, I would too. But if you're a person just trying to make the best decision for yourself, stop looking at other people's situations. Stop looking at videos where they're just saying it's the best, and on paper it shows this, on paper it shows this spec and that spec. Think about what you actually need. Think about whatever you have or don't have. Think about whatever you do use. What do you ever feel like you're missing when you're in your creative process, or you're in your task, or you're doing a particular job when you feel like you're lacking something? That's what you need. Stop looking at every other thing in the world. See, like this particular camera I'm filming on, the ZV-1, it doesn't check all my boxes off, but it checks a few boxes that I felt lacked on my G7X. As far as better quality, as far as better image quality and stuff like that, autofocus, I mean, I'm pretty good with the G7X. I expect it only to be but so good because it's a point and shoot. I don't expect it to look like a full frame or whatever, because it just won't. So I have normal expectations for what I have. I was just missing some things like internal audio and stuff like that. I would have got a G7X Mark II or 3, but I heard the autofocus doesn't work well, and then that becomes a reliability issue. So it doesn't matter if I think that particular camera is better build quality than this one. That's not what I felt like I was lacking. So that's not what I'm looking for. I want reliability, obviously, so I don't want to go downwards as far as that's concerned. But there's certain things on here that I would appreciate that the other camera that I currently have doesn't have. Yes, I have bigger cameras that do this and more things, but it's too big now. So I have a reason for why I want it. Now, some of y'all can say, well, that's stupid to think that you only want a camera because of the size. That's because you're not in my shoes and you don't have the same reasoning as me. That's my point. Everybody has their own reasoning. You just need to find yours and stick to it, and don't get confused by what you see on the internet. Now, if what I say happens to relate to what your problems are in filming or creating or whatever it is that you're doing as a job or whatever, a hobby, then yes, take note of what I'm saying and apply it to your life and how it may suit you. So stop getting confused by what's on the internet, because it's definitely influencing people to just, it's like a bragging contest of who gets what first and who's the latest and greatest and the newest thing. It's being passed around so crazy to me. This is for the consumers who's consuming that content, who's actually being influenced by it to make decisions that don't really make sense for them. That's all I want to say. Now let's get right to the video. And I'm doing a lot of talking just to give you a heads up. This is not really a review or unboxing. It's more just like my thoughts on the whole situation in my circumstances. And let's get right to it.
Yeah. Jsean.
Hey, what's going on? This is Jsean. Today I want to talk about a quick pickup. I know this is not necessarily a very new item or anything like that. If I feel like there's a difficulty in me doing something, I try to figure an easier way to make it happen. Now, some people could say the less you have, the more productive you'll be, because you'll utilize what you have to its maximum potential. That is true. But for me, I find if I have a repetitive process, you can manipulate the situation to make it easier for you, but there's a time and place where you can't make it any easier for you, right? So you end up paying for things. For me, it's not a creative factor, it's more of a convenience factor. But also, when you have convenience, sometimes it opens up the doors to be creative as well. It all depends on the type of person you are. So if you're a person who doesn't get motivated on your own, something like that could help, or something like that can make you lazy. It all depends on how you personally are. So with that being said, I already have a G7X Mark II, which is this right here, and I was gonna get a Mark III only because there was a particular time that I was doing a video, right? I was doing a video and I found a limitation. So what I did is I wanted a balance. I said, you know what? I want a smaller camera that can allow me to do certain things that I would like. But like audio was the biggest thing for me at that point. It wasn't even about the video quality, because if you shoot with your phone, you're not expecting the best quality. So you're okay with less quality than you would if you use like a mirrorless or a DSLR or something like that, right? So I started to do that, and I started to realize that it kind of turned me off. I felt limited instead of just doing whatever I wanted to do or needed to do without overdoing it, as far as like trying to shoot a movie or something crazy. It's just something very simple that I wanted to do that I felt like I couldn't due to a limitation with the gear itself, not me. So what I did is I was like, you know what, I'll try to use my phone or something like that. I bought this app that allowed me to use both cameras. Now that is a cool thing and it's a convenient, but I also realized another shortfall that just bothered me. It's something that I couldn't personally look past. There's moments where if it's sunny at all outside, it'll make me look like I have splotches all over my face, and it's kind of like a burnt look. It's very strange. With that being said, I didn't like that. I was okay with the lesser quality because it was doing it with a phone. And then what I did is I bought an A60-600, and that's what I'm shooting on right now. It is my favorite APS-C camera, even though I don't generally like APS-C cameras for my personal reasons. I just feel like you have to make too many, well, I don't feel like getting into that. But the problem is, let me show you these two point and shoot cameras. I wanted something that could be pretty quick on the go. My head shinies on the what? Pretty much quick on the go, something that I didn't feel too uncomfortable with. And that's another thing. I spent so much money on all these different pieces of gear, not because other people had it, not because somebody else told me to get it. I was just simply thinking about my shortfalls in what I was personally doing, right? So I bought GoPros. I have the new GoPro. I love it. The stabilization is really good. The problem I have is that when you film yourself, right, it's not really about how great the footage looks or anything like that, but it's very awkward to hold a camera like this and you can't actually see yourself. Now, to some people, you may not care, but even right now, even though I should be looking here, I'm still looking at the screen above, right? I can't help it. I just want to make sure I don't look too crazy. What if I just look awkward or something behind me is awkward and I just didn't realize it? And then to me, I feel like it would have kind of maybe potentially ruined the footage. So I look all into that. I know to some, it sounds a little spoiled, it sounds whatever. But as long as I have an option, I'm going to take the option. That's kind of how I look at it. If I don't have an option, obviously I'll stop in my tracks and I'll do what I got to do. Now, with that being said, this camera setup was maybe like $1,800, something like that, under $2,000, just barely under $2,000. When you get into that range, you're like, dang, I can get a much better camera, blah, blah, blah. But the reason is, this particular setup, I had to buy a lens as well because I wanted to vlog on it. So I had to buy a 16mm Sigma 1.4. So that's why the bill kind of jumped up a little bit. I'm just holding the lens literally with my arm, and even though it's not that heavy, my arm is getting a little tired because it's not a natural position of, or a natural way for me to hold something, right? So it gets a little tiring. I was like, you know what? I can put a lavalier on this mic. I can see myself. I was missing a flip screen on my other full frame options that I currently have. And I was saying to myself that, you know, I would go to parks, maybe be on the go. And I realized quickly, for me personally, if you're a type that's like me, you understand. If you're not, then you probably think I'm just a crybaby or something. I don't know. I don't feel personally comfortable where I'm located carrying a camera, walking around talking to it that's as big as this. Even though it's smaller than other options, it's still big and it's still very noticeable, right? I do realize that if I'm the type of person who don't feel comfortable holding this, I won't feel comfortable holding any camera no matter how small it is. It's just the act of doing it more so than the camera size itself is awkward to me and where I'm located at, right? You don't really see people walking around
holding cameras, talking to it. It's just weird. That's why I wish Sony would come back and bring. You remember that Sony Bloggy camera or whatever? That would be the perfect type of camera in today's environment where you won't. It'll be discreet because it looks more like a cell phone. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I'm doing a lot of talking because it's more to me. It's more than just specs to me as far as my decision making on certain things now. Now it's literally looked at not as the best piece of technology. At one point I would look at it more like that. Now I'm looking at it as simply the best tool for the purpose that I need it to do, right? So when I show you the difference in size, that won't affect all of you, but there will be some who are like me who that you'll understand where I'm coming from, right? This is a G7X. When I first bought this, I'm not gonna lie to you, I thought it was way overpriced, because it is. I feel like any point and shoot should not be this much money. Now, I don't know how much it costs to actually manufacture it. I'm just saying from a consumer perspective, it just seems way too much. You can literally step into certain type of cameras for a little bit more. They have the Sony RX version. It's like $1,200. For $1,200, I mean, you could probably buy one of these A6000 series, 64, 6500, maybe even the 6600, because I don't remember how much I paid for. I think it was 15, 14. So for a little bit more, you can get a much bigger camera. And I'll show you what this setup looks like in a second when I film on this. Now, with that being said, this camera is fine to me. It's not bad at all. The microphone I'm talking to you right now is faced the wrong way. It's facing this way, so hopefully you can still hear me. Very robust. Somebody, I'm not going to say who, dropped it, flew out their hands, and you see it hit right here. This thing is like magnesium build, or I don't know. It's pretty strong. It feels like metal housing, except for this bottom piece, I guess, right here. But in general, it has a very robust build, and if you drop it, as it did, it still survived. So I went and tried to answer some things with this, and I told you about my little timeline of different cameras. I was interested in G7X Mark III until everybody said that the focus system is the same as this, which is outdated, but it does work fine. But they're saying that it works a lot worse than this for some strange reason. Boom, get that out the way. I'm not even interested at this point. They have a Sony. Typically the RX is about $1,200. I think that's way overpriced. I wouldn't even consider it. Now with this particular one, I don't know what it's made out of, but it feels a lot cheaper in hand compared to this. If you're only worried about that type of aesthetic, like this has metal dials on top, this does not have anything, then it will disappoint you. If you're only worried about functionality, if you're simply worried about functionality purposes only, then I think this is more geared towards a video shooter, a vlogger, a YouTube or internet social media type of creator. Now this has maybe some extra things or whatever the case is. The touchscreen is great, but functionality wise, this has a few different things that I want to just talk about that affected me and my decision. One of them was an audio port. I wish it did have USB-C, only because it's amongst a lot of devices that I have, including my MacBook and stuff like that. So just a compatibility thing, but other than that, it's not a deal breaker or anything like that. I do actually prefer the screen on top personally, because I feel like the perspective looks more normal looking in the same line of sight as the lens versus the screen being on this side. I just think that throws me off a little bit, and it might be more obvious when I'm not looking directly into the lens. You may see me looking to the side, and other than that, it's not really that big of a deal. I know why they did it, because they wanted to make room for different accessory attachments so you can plug in mics and stuff like that. It makes sense. The G7X Mark III, you can buy little brackets and stuff to accommodate for that, but again, that's not even in the picture because they just fumbled the bag, or fumbled the technology glow up with the G7X as far as with the whole autofocus and issue. So I'm not even gonna talk about the Canon anymore. I do think it's good for certain reasons. I just think that especially audio is pretty good on here. If you're in a quiet environment or decent type of environment and you're not you're talking in a calm normal tone, I think it picks up your audio of your voice really good. If you are in a loud environment, I just feel like that's when it starts messing up a bit. Overall, I think it's pretty good as far as the audio quality. It's not bad for what it is. This right here, I'm hoping that will be something that will allow me to create more on the fly. And when I mean on the fly, I mean simple things that I normally don't have time for, as far as any type of level of production setup or planning. Sometimes I don't want to plan. Sometimes I just want to shoot the video and keep it moving. But let me just show you the size difference really quickly, because I'm going to switch cameras right now, and let's get right to it. All right, hopefully you can hear me. I feel like I look a lot darker. This is the Sony ZV-1. I look a little orange too. Now this is on intelligent auto mode. Now I don't know if that's ideal or the one I should have picked, but I just wanted, whatever it is, I'm not going to be grading footage from a point and shoot. The whole point is so I can just get in and out and hurry up and do it. Now on paper, I think the screen on the G7X is supposed to be a bit better, but I can't really tell too much like that when I look on here. Now when I first got the camera, I did a quick unboxing. It doesn't really come with much. It has the camera, it has the battery. There is no charger, it's just a cord. You have to plug it in, or you can buy a Sony charger or a Sony aftermarket charger, which I would probably recommend, but I don't really recommend off-brand batteries. I just had bad personal situations happen as far as, especially with Sony, well, Canon too, but this has a skin softening effect. Out the box it had it on. I don't know if that's with all the cameras, but I didn't like it. I noticed it after the fact when I put it on the camera, so I'm gonna film some of this again. Now I don't know why my head looks so shiny here, but it looks a little blown out. I look a little dark in the face for some strange reason, and I'm not really sure why, but I might like, I don't know if I have the ND on or what. This is literally just straight out the camera. Let me see. I'm at, for some reason, the shutter speed of F. Let me see. I mean, not F. I'm at a high shutter speed for some strange reason. So something's wrong with the settings on here. I don't know why it's picking for the shutter speed to be so high. It's boosting the ISO. Now y'all probably don't know what I'm talking about, some of y'all, but let me just show you what I'm talking about really quickly. And it does have the product mode where you hold your hand or something like that, or you hold a product. But as far as I know, you have to turn off the recording and then push the button, because I believe if I push it now, it doesn't work. Am I pushing it? Yes, I'm pushing it. It don't work. So for the most part, a G7X is the size of this Sony, all right? So there's no need to show you all these cameras. I'm not going to pull 4 cameras out just to show you some simple footage like this. The size of this is pretty much the size of the Sony that I'm shooting on right here. And this is an A6600 with a 16mm lens that gives you pretty much the equivalent point of view or field of view as the widest angle on the G7X or this camera right here. Now this is definitely smaller than a lot of cameras. It's smaller than some of my other Sony cameras. It's smaller than one of my favorite video cameras, the EOS R for the internet, but it's so much bigger, right? So I happen to have the EOS R right here, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's not my goal. My goal is to be more compact, more efficient, and basically just more convenient for me, you know what I mean, in my personal circumstances. So with that being said, this is still too big. So compared to my other cameras, yes, this is a lot smaller. Compared to what some vloggers and content creators use, yes, this is much smaller. Now, it's definitely smaller if you take this lens off and this ND filter and all this other stuff, but the problem is it's still kind of big. It's not a pocketable camera. Something like this, there's a place for it. There's a place for stuff like this, for like cell phones and stuff like that, for my personal circumstances. So this is who I'm speaking to, basically, is people who are in my situation who tend to have a need for convenience, right? So with that being said, as far as the footage, as far as just opening the camera and turning it on and letting it go, not even picking a profile, it's just on standard, I guess. Normally I would take a standard profile or a portrait profile and drop it by like 1 or 2 down on each setting, especially on Sony. But I don't know, this looks a little harsh just looking at the screen, but we're just gonna let the video ride out like this. As far besides this, I mean, I'm only shooting on HD. I don't really need 4K vlogging type material. Maybe if I was doing something in a location like this and I had lights set up, yeah, maybe if I wanted to, but it's not really necessary. Let me know what y'all think about the quality of the footage. I'm gonna try to show the same footage with the G7X and this one. And this is the thing, for me, it's not about having better quality footage compared to my G7X. This just fulfills something that this just simply cannot fulfill for me at this point. This just does something that this one that I'm filming on just does something that this one doesn't do. Now, I do believe that the in-body stabilization on here is better than what this one is without having to deal with crop issues, but I can deal with that if it's not too bad, you know what I'm saying? But as far as the image quality, as long as I'm not really hurting too much or it's too far off from this, I'm good with that. Sony tends to have a bit of a sharper image across most of their cameras compared to Canon's equivalents. So that I'm not really too worried about either. It's just the functionality of the camera. I will get used to it. And I heard that there is a I forgot the word, but if you shoot in vertical mode and you're doing something for like social media, if it'll save the data. I look weird right here, I don't know why, but it'll save the data and it'll actually keep it like this, so you can do a quick little talk, a quick little whatever promo or whatever you're doing, and you can go ahead and post it on your social media account, which is pretty cool. I know the G7X Mark III has something very similar, but this is pretty cool too, right? So I don't know if it's going to do it because I was recording in both perspectives. All right, hopefully this was helpful to somebody. I know this is so much rambling and just random talking, but hopefully if you kind of have a perspective or idea of how I'm doing it, maybe it will come into play for you. Now I will say really quickly, a lot of content creators or bigger content creators tend to get cameras like these, and they tend to say this is the new thing and this is whatever because it's the new thing, right? And some people complain that 24 millimeters is not wide enough. It sounds like people who say that generally don't vlog or something, because people have been shooting with this for so long. On this is like the holy grail for YouTubers or something, right? For typical vlogging, not for like movie type aesthetics or anything like that. But most people use this camera, right? And nobody has ever said that they wish it was wider. Now it would be great if it was wider, but you can't sit here and just listen to when people say it's not wide enough. It's definitely wide enough. Features like defocusing the background, I mean, that's just, I don't know, that's just shooting wide open, I guess. It's just a quick button to do it. The product function, the problem, unless I just don't know what I'm doing because it's on intelligent auto, I have to turn the recording off, then select it, and then go back to recording in that style. I can't do it live. It seems that while I'm recording, I can turn it on or off. At least I haven't figured it out. I literally just bought this yesterday. All right, so make sure you do everything at top level, at your top level, because remember, you're in no competition with anybody except yourself. So make sure your next move is your best move, or at least your better move. And stay tunnel vision, stay safe. Until next time.